Hey there, fellow citizens of the internet. Welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast. Today, I have with me Dr. Craig Wright. I really like that name. We're going to be exploring the topic of numerology and the other topics as well that Dr. Craig Wright would like to introduce and expand on. But for me, I'm interested in numerology for this particular conversation because I know absolutely nothing about this topic. First, without any further ado, Dr. Craig Wright, welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast.
Thank you, Moses. It's a pleasure to be on your program. Thank you for the opportunity.
Pleasure's all mine. So let me just ask the very first question. What is numerology? Like what is that? Because when I hear it, a lot of questions just flow into my mind. Like, is it for sure? It's not the study of mathematics, because I've taken math class in high school and college, and I'm pretty much allergic to mathematics. And other things that other things that come to mind is, when I see a particular number too many times throughout the day. Sometimes I go home and I Google it, and there's just an assortment of answers and theories and X, Y, and Z, and there's just never a unified source of information that I found. So I figured, well, why not bring an expert in the field and ask all the questions that I have. So that's the question. That's the very first question. What is numerology?
Okay, excellent question. Good place to start, Moses. Ology, we see ology behind a lot of things. Psychology, geology. So ology means the study of. So numerology means the study of numbers. So I first have to clarify, numbers are different from figures. When you study math and you have geometry, you're studying about figures. If I say I have one bottle of water, that's a figure, a quantity. But if I
Okay.
say Deer Park is number one, now I'm talking about a quality of being the best.
Mm.
So figures are for quantities and numbers are for revealing qualities. The science of numerology goes back some thousands of years, over 3,000 years. It was
Mm.
taught in the mystery schools of Egypt,
Okay.
in the Luxor temple. Above the temple are the words inscribed, "Know thyself." Throughout history, those words have been assigned um, a background of Greek, being a Greek background. But if you
Mm.
ask the Greeks, they'll tell you they studied in Egypt with the Egyptian masters. So numerology is a study of numbers and letters, and it's based on the belief that we were created by the word. Words are vibrations that we use letters and numbers as symbols for. Musicians kind of get this because musicians use letters for notes and numbers for timing.
Mm.
Okay? So the letters in our name and the numbers in our birthday are symbols, if you will, for the song we play in the symphony of life. So numerology
Okay.
is the study of the spiritual, the essence behind what's being symbolized by the number. For example, the number one is
Mm.
a symbol for leadership. Numero uno,
Okay.
the first, the fastest, the top, the best.
But
Number one,
does
it
that
has
has
a
to do
meaning.
with how we understand numbers, or is that congruent like across different cultures as well? So maybe let's say number one in our culture, or in, I don't know, speaking English speaking countries, it might be that number one is associated with, like you said, the best, but there might be another culture where it isn't. Is that a fair judge? Is that a plausible judgment, or there's no merit in that at all?
That is an excellent question because Numbers and music are perhaps the only universal languages. So number one, I may say one here in America. They may say uno in another culture, eins in another
Mm-hmm.
culture, but numbers have the same meaning. In every culture, number one is always the first. Number one is always the first. When you move from the number one to number two, now there's no more unilateral decisions. There's two
Yeah.
people now. So diplomacy, cooperation, being able to see another person's point of view, that's the number two. So those
Yeah.
qualities come into play. The number two is a symbol for the peacemaker. So people literally who were born
Hmm.
on the 2nd, 11th, 20th, or 29th will have that quality of spirit and that gift. A lot of musicians come under the number two. When is your birthday?
I'll, Mine is, well, my actual one
Didn't
is
see that
7.
coming.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be, the 7th day of January.
The 7. The 7. Okay.
Yeah.
The number 7 is revered as the holiest of all the numbers. Number 7. In ancient times, you would have been taken from your family. It wouldn't be a kidnapping. It would have been an honor. As a 7, you would have been taken from your family and raised in the temple. And upon graduation, 7s were assigned scribes to write down everything they said. So as a number 7, your gift is intuition, knowledge, wisdom, and a direct connection to all things spiritual. Moses, you're a minister. Whether you go to school, go to seminary, wear a robe, it doesn't matter. In ancient times, it was the number 7. That was the tip-off.
What's yours?
My day of birth is a 4,
Yeah.
but my name is a 7. My vowel total is a 7. And when I add my month, day, and year, all 3 together, is a number 7.
Okay. So there is.
So 7s are
So it's not
sponges
just
for
your
wisdom
birthday.
and knowledge. Yes, there's a number in numerology called the birth path number, which is the sum of your month, your day, and your year. All 3 added together. It's called the birth path. It's your ultimate gift. And what do I mean by that? As a numerologist, a metaphysician, I believe we have a contract with our Creator before we're formed in the womb. I don't look at myself as a physical being having occasional aha moments, spiritual moments. I view myself as a spiritual being having a temporary physical expression here on what we call planet Earth. My body is a temple for the spirit within me that has come here for a reason, a purpose, and that reason and purpose is revealed by the letters in our name and the talents and skills that we have to use to accomplish that purpose is revealed by the numbers in our birthday. So you're here to use your mind, to be a thinker, that's the number 7. To be an analyst, that's the number 7. To spend time alone in solitude, that's the number 7. Your month indicates you're here to be original, not to imitate anyone else, because you're a number 1. January. Number 1, the first, the fastest, the leader. And don't take my word for it. Ask your parents. They'll tell you. You probably spoke very fast, walked quickly, and accomplished things other youth didn't do until years later. You'll also
Hmm.
find working for someone else is is not going to be comfortable for you, although you may have well-meaning people telling you, get a good job. Because as a number one, you came here to stand on your own, to be a leader, to be the boss, to give orders, not to take them.
Hmm.
So you're starting to get a feel
Okay.
for what
Ooh.
numerology is all about and what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. And so two questions. One, everything that you just said feels good to me, right? And
Okay.
so I easily gravitate towards that. But then I'm wise enough to say, hey, whenever you're listening to things that come naturally, that come too easy, you might want to take a step back and question, right? And question it, because the things that come easy, the things that we easily gravitate to, we can be blinded by them, right? We might not be able to see that there are holes in them. So in that spirit, let me ask the second question then, which is, I don't know if there's like an actual answer to it, but like, why do you think this purpose was decided to be implanted in behind numbers, right? Because you said there's a purpose, and our numbers are representative of that purpose, or the different purposes are hidden, not hidden, or like represented by different numbers. Why numbers, do you think? Why is it that you think it's numbers instead of oh geez, I don't know, other different symbols? But I don't have something to substitute
Well,
numbers with. So
in the evolution of man's development, numbers preceded letters. Numbers
yeah,
preceded letters. And through observation, people began to recognize and observe certain qualities that people had. And just through that observation and paying attention, and man's natural inquisitiveness, the desire to know is inherent within us to see, start to make these connections between the
so
numbers
yeah.
and the experiences that we were having.
So then, before numbers were discovered, I might be speaking out of my butt here. I don't know when numbers were discovered, or even if that's even a logical way of thinking of it. There was no purpose.
Oh, on the contrary, um, what people
Yeah,
began to realize was there was a connection between what we later called numbers. It was sort of like when you get a new gift. Maybe you go
yeah,
buy a television set and it comes with an owner's manual. Most people run and just plug the TV set up. I'll make it work. They don't
yeah.
study the manual. So there's always purpose. There's always meaning to life. But mankind
Hmm.
has been developing through the ages. And we don't have to look at mankind. We can look at, at myself as ourselves as an individual. You know, the first thing, the only thing you're interested
Yeah.
in is staying warm and having some food, getting some food. And later on, you notice other people are walking and talking. So you want to kind of meet that development. You try to stand on your own and you speak your first word. So as we grow and develop, we start to recognize things that we didn't recognize before. Um, I didn't,
Yeah.
I wasn't born a numerologist. I made a discovery of an ancient science that's been around 3,000 years, and it revealed to me what I was carrying in my toolbox all along. I wasn't aware um, that I was here to be a researcher, an analyst. I wasn't aware that I was here to discover hidden truths and share them with others.
Hmm.
I thought I was here to become an engineer, become an aircraft pilot, and drop bombs on people. That was my intention as a youth. But through my life experience, I awakened to a higher purpose and the true meaning of my life. It was there all along. It's there for other people
How
who've
did you
never
awaken
heard
to
of
this?
numerology. Well, my best friend died of a drug overdose when I was 21 years old. And up until then, I had intentions on becoming a Navy pilot. But that began to make me question the meaning of life. Why was I here? What was my purpose? Why was my best friend gone? Um, so as I began to seek the answers to those questions, I heard a song by an artist by the name of Wright called In Search of the Third Eye. And the lyrics were secrets of numbers, secrets of sound, secrets of wisdom will be found. Well, I wanted knowledge. I wanted some wisdom. So I was drawn to that song. I bought the album. This was back in the early 70s. There was no Amazon, no internet.
Yeah,
Took me a
yeah.
couple of years to finally get a copy of this album. And the person who wrote that song had read a book. And this book was my introduction to numerology and all things metaphysical. And this changed the path of my life. As I began to read and study and analyze this information, that's when I discovered I was a seven. And I was here to read and study and discover information. So it was almost like
Yeah.
I discovered myself. Wait a minute, this is exactly what I'm doing now. And I began to look at
Mm.
my friend's departure in a whole nother light. Rather than it being a tragedy, I looked at it as an act of
Yeah.
love on his part to
Mm.
awaken me. Sort of like a booster rocket,
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
awaken me, to
And may
snap
may
me
I
out of
ask,
my, certainly.
no, I was gonna say, how long have you been on this path?
Oh, well, this happened at age 21, and I just celebrated my 72nd birthday in May. So I've been a student of the science of
Okay.
numerology now for over 50 years. Kind of got started when
Wow.
there was a time when people didn't know about it, weren't talking about it. So I was being prepared. I was being prepared because
Yeah.
now
Now, did you end up uh,
we're at a time when
did
people
you end
want
up
to know.
going to? Okay. Sorry about that. There's like a bit of a delay happening here, but we can sort that out
Mhm.
later. Um, did you end up being a pilot in the Navy at all?
No, it changed the whole course of my life. Instead of pursuing an engineering degree, I started studying um, sociology, psychology. I now hold a PhD in metaphysics. And I'm a counselor, a metaphysical counselor, and numerology is a tool that I use. So I build bridges instead of building
Hmm.
bridges um, across uh, land areas. I build bridges into the hearts of people, breaking down the hate, the avarice, breaking down walls that they build up with prejudice. I build bridges of love and truth and spirituality to their hearts to free them, to awaken them to their purpose so that we can do
Yeah.
away with the need for this is just a testing ground of the soul. And as long as we need, as long it's only going to be
Yeah.
here as long as we need it. So as we begin
Yeah.
to be about and
Yeah. And we'll
awaken
always
to
need it.
our purposes, um, we can progress.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say is the biggest misconception that the average schmuck like myself has when they hear numerology?
Well, I guess the meaning behind it, when I say it's based on belief that we are created by the word, you know, up
Okay.
until my friend died of a drug overdose, I was an atheist. Up until age 21, I would not have listened to me.
Yeah. yeah,
because I was a
yeah,
non-believer. So,
mhm,
what I discovered is we are
yeah,
on different paths of awakening. So I guess a lot of people would say, well, I just don't believe in that stuff. I certainly, that's what I would have said
yeah,
um, before my world was rocked, before everything I believed in was totally eliminated and erased. And I literally was beginning from scratch, searching for the meaning of why I was here, just looking for a purpose to go on. Until you reach that stage in life, maybe you won't have any
yeah,
purpose for numerology. But I would recommend you, whether you contact me or
yeah.
you Google it, I recommend you take a look at it so you don't have to get the cosmic 2x4 that I had to go through to awaken. You know,
Yeah,
take my
yeah.
word for it. Check it out.
I appreciate that. And I mean, I ask because, well, I would most likely fall in the line of the people that would be uh, at the very best skeptical of numerology, but I also have this
Well,
idea that,
let's take a
w-
look at it. As a number
well, yeah,
one,
yeah,
you would have left home early.
uh-huh,
You would have left home early
okay,
as a number one. Not only that, you would have experienced, okay, someone in the family who tried to control you and make you acquiesce to their will. This is the number one experience. It's
okay,
like an incubator for leadership. So over time, number ones go
yeah,
back and they say, wow, if it wasn't for that person who at some point they may have despised, okay, if it wasn't for that
yeah,
person,
yeah,
I would not be where I am today.
right,
That's the
right,
number one
right.
experience.
Well,
The number seven would have made you very, very, um, shall I put it, feeling different even in a crowd. Okay. You will feel
mm,
like you've been set
okay,
aside
yeah,
and you'll feel different even in a crowd, and you will not take anything at face value as a number seven. I don't know what your year is, but
yeah,
that's also a quality or a gift that you have if you like to share that.
94, yeah,
That adds up
1994,
to 23. 1 plus 9 plus 9 and 4 adds up to 23. Okay, so 23 adds up to 5. 2 plus 3 is 5, and that's freedom. Freedom, travel, change. So your month and year are 1, 7, and 23, which adds up to 31. And 3 plus 1 is 4.
okay,
So your gift, how can I put it? You're a natural attorney. I don't know if you ever thought about law school, but people are going to come to you with their problems and ask you for their advice, and you are a natural fighter. When you walk into a room, you don't have to say a word, okay? People will sense
mm,
a
mm,
warrior
yeah,
is in the room and respond to you in a manner that may puzzle you as to, well, why they respond? I didn't say a word. I didn't do anything to anyone, but it is a
right,
quality of spirit that you will carry that people will sense, and they will respond to it with aggression. Now, I don't know you. I've
mm,
never met
mm,
you, but you know if you've had that type of experience or not. So,
right,
as they
right.
say,
Oh, and
the
it's
numbers don't lie.
no, fair, and so let me give you a little pushback here. Um, Again,
Please do.
because I'm hearing things that I like to hear, right? And whenever I hear things that I like to hear, I gotta take a step back here. Um, would it be a plausible thing? Would it be plausible to say that most of those qualities that you just described of me, most of those can be applied to basically anybody that's breathing, right? Um, well, one is
Well,
that a
those were
plausible
pretty specific.
criticism?
Those were pretty specific things. Those are pretty specific things. Everyone isn't raised, for example, as a number one, in a home where there is a dominant figure trying to control them. Some people are raised in a home where there's nurturing, um, of a different kind. It's all nurturing, but nurturing of a different kind,
True,
where someone is
true,
supportive.
true.
So no, I wouldn't say that would adhere to everyone. The number seven, needing time alone by themselves. Some people are extroverts who can't stand being by themselves for a second. They gotta be on the
Yeah,
phone.
yeah,
They gotta
yeah.
be plugged in. They gotta be social. But as a number
Right,
seven, you
right,
will revel and revere your time
right,
by
right. Oh,
yourself.
so here is where the pushback would come into play. Uh, like for me, well, depending on the age that I was in, I didn't grow up with a I didn't grow up like in a nuclear family, right? I grew up in an orphanage, right? So
You had to
the
stand on your
idea
own
of
early.
having
You
true,
had to
true,
stand on
right?
your
But there
own
was
early. Number one,
at
no
least like as far,
parents, just you,
true,
all by yourself. And what
fair,
type of
fair,
environment?
but
What type of environment did you experience?
well, I'm going after that the controlling part of it, right? I don't have that in my past. Like I said, depending on the age that we're talking about, right? Like nobody was trying to. I was a free range kid, right? I do what I gotta do to stand on my own 2 feet, like you said, right? But there's no figure, right? Mother figure, father figure, that's trying to control either my growth or how I go about life. I'm just in a giant orphanage with a whole bunch of other kids. So the character of standing on my own 2 feet early, that is 1,000% true. It's right there. I had to do that, but
That's
there's
number one.
no point of contention, right? There's no point
Well,
of
as I
contention
said,
with another individual trying
oftentimes,
to guide me.
I understand. That's why I said oftentimes number ones will be born in that type of environment. But your environment definitely
Right.
bespeaks exactly what I was referring to um, when I said you may have left home early.
Yeah.
You didn't even begin in a home. So number ones definitely have to learn to stand on their own. Um,
So
the aspect that you
would you
keep bringing up about it sounds good. I have to that sounds good. I've got to push back on that.
yeah, yeah,
That's the number seven. Being skeptical, being analytical,
fair.
being a researcher, being a thinker, and not taking things at face value. That's the number seven. As evidenced by the letters
Yeah.
G, P, and Y. Remember those letters, G, P, and Y, in grade school? All of those
Okay.
letters went under the line. They're not content to rest on the line. The number seven goes deeper. So the fact that you're calling it pushback bespeaks what I told you about. You're a fighter. So you see it as pushback. I see it as verification of exactly what I've been referring to
Fair.
and
Fair.
sharing with your audience. I see it as
So
verification, but
so
as a
would you?
31, as a fighter, you will view life as a battle. That's how 31s, view life as a battle, something to conquer,
Yeah.
something to climb, a mountain to attain,
Yeah.
to breathe rarefied air at the top. So you're very
Yeah.
driven.
Yeah. I am. I am. But well, okay. So before I forget this point, you said that when you started this path, uh, excuse me, before you started the path, you were an atheist. What do you label yourself now? Like, what does that? Are you like? Do you belong to a religion?
I'm a
Like, what is that?
metaphysician.
What is
I'm a metaphysician. I label myself
and
a
is that
metaphysician right now.
okay? But like, would that fall under a religious thing? Because if you're not an
Well,
atheist, and this is me asking a dumb question, right?
I've studied
Um,
all the world religions.
okay.
I've studied all the world religions, and I don't sort of classify myself into one category, stating that, well, I'm this, so this is the only thing that's right, or I'm that,
Yeah.
so that's the
Yeah.
only thing that's right. Um, if you study all the world's religions, you can find common threads, things that are common in all of them. And
Yeah.
those are the things that I found I like to embrace. Um, but I do
Can you?
find I'm in my particular calling, if you will,
Yeah.
I've been called to address the Christian community.
Okay.
I've been called
In
to
what
address the
sense?
Christian community in the sense that the opportunities for expression that the universe has given me
Yeah.
has been in that arena.
Hmm.
Um, when I
Do,
because when we're talking about numerology, we're using letters and numbers as symbols for vibrations,
hmm.
right? Ah, that's the A sound. But, that's the B sound. So
Yeah.
that ties directly into the theory of being created by the word and that we are the living word. So I really
Well,
embrace that.
yeah. Well, you mentioned sounds, and well, there are languages that have more sounds than others. There are languages that, like in one of the languages that I speak, there is no L. The sound L does not really exist. So, wow, what does that mean? So
Well, it's not letterology,
the sound,
it's
right?
numerology.
Okay.
Okay, so in all cultures,
Hmm.
all around the world, there's 1 through 9.
Fair.
You may say it differently.
Right. Right.
You may have a different word for it, a different vibration, a different energy, a different expression,
But
but
after the
numbers
same
1
thing.
through 9 are consistent. That's why I
Okay.
say numbers and music are universal languages. So musicians don't have, they grasp this concept of numerology kind of easily because they use letters as symbols for notes, vibrations,
Yeah.
energy. We
Well,
are
okay.
energy, vibration,
Yeah.
atoms, neutrons, protons. We
Right.
may appear to be solid, but if we had a large enough magnifying device, you'd see that we're spinning. Okay?
Fair.
And
Fair.
this
Fair.
vibratory pattern that we have can be symbolized with letters and numbers. Just as on a radio dial, if you turn your radio dial to a certain number, you know you're going to hear jazz music, or another number, you're going to hear spiritual music. Based on what that particular station is playing,
Yeah.
the number on your dial, you know what to expect. Well, that's what
Right.
numerology is. The letters in your name and the numbers in your birthday are symbols for spiritual energy. And if you are a student of that science, you'll know what to expect.
Okay. Let me take you a couple steps back here, just for some clarification. You mentioned that one of your calling, as you put it, uh, and correct me if I'm not making justice to what you said, is to go after Christians. Why?
Well,
Can you expand
let
on
me
that?
adjust that. Let me
Yeah,
adjust that.
yeah,
See, as a 31, you will interpret things as going after, attacking,
fair,
because you're a
fair.
warrior. So you interpret it that way.
Okay.
But what I said was, it's been revealed and it's my calling that I
Right.
should address that community.
Can you?
So
Okay.
I'm not
Perfect.
going after them. I'm not
Right. Right.
attacking them.
Yeah.
I'm sharing what has been revealed to me with
Right.
them in
Why
using,
do you
let me
think that
finish,
is?
let me finish,
Okay.
using words that are part of their tenet,
Okay.
the living
Okay.
word.
Yeah.
Um, like Psalms 90, verse 12, Moses says, teach us to number our days. These are scriptures that were revealed to me
Okay.
to share, and it's like a bridge. I'm an engineer. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
link. It's a bridge from the higher wisdom and knowledge that is revealed in the scripture that they may not even see. Like for
Right.
example, you see the number 40 all the time. 40 days, 40 nights. 40 days, 40 nights, 40 years in the wilderness. Well, there's a meaning between those numbers. Zero in the beginning is a symbol for the creator, whatever you call him. Allah,
Okay.
Buddha, Yahweh,
Yep.
the
Yep.
creator. And four, which is your number, 31, 3 plus 1 is 4, is a symbol for orderliness. So when you see the number 40, it literally means the creator is establishing a new order. Every time you see that number in the scripture. And because your month, day, and year equal 4, that's what you're here to do, to establish order. Okay? To
Okay.
establish order.
Right.
So what happens when your gift is a number 4? You have the ability to manifest your ideas. Where does that come from? On the 4th day is when the creator made the earth. So what does that tell me as a metaphysician? Things come into physical manifestation under the number 4. So since
Okay.
you are a number 4, you can manifest everything you can think of. You can manifest it. You have the follow through, the gifts, the talents, the self drive. You don't need anyone standing over your shoulder to make sure this happens. Now, how will the universe use you? It'll put you where things are just getting started. A new
Okay.
business. All right. You'll be there. A young person. You'll be there. Why? Because the number 4 forms a structure, hold things together like a new tree when you plant it in the ground, when they put those clamps, hold it in together so it can grow straight and true, get a good root
Yeah.
set. That's the
Mm.
number 4. Now, after a while, you have to take that down because it will literally strangle the tree if you don't. So as
Right.
a 4,
Right.
you'll have to know when to apply your order, your energy of orderliness, and when to let people make it on their own.
Make it on their own. Okay. Oh, the extra inquisition on your phraseology of addressing the Christian community was coming from the perspective of why do you think you're having this calling to address the Christian community instead of, let's say, the Buddhist or the non-believers, the atheists like you once were, or the Jewish community or
Because those
the
are
Islam.
because those are because those are the people who have been seeking me out.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And do you think that's like the universe sending that in, or more of like there's just
Well, it's like the
the
law of attraction.
mm,
It's like the law
okay,
of attraction. It's like because I've been studying and researching and harboring this energy, it's
yeah,
changed
yeah,
my vibration. Give you an
okay,
example. When I was in 7th grade, my 7th grade science teacher called me to him. Come here, Wright. Look at this.
yeah,
Held up a tuning fork. I'm like, big deal. So what? I didn't know he had another tuning fork behind him, which he struck and brought it right beside the other one. And the one that wasn't struck started to vibrate at the same rate.
okay,
So that was amazing to me. It was like the energy from one was transferred to the other. That told me I had to be very careful who I'm around. It taught me a lot of information instantly. So when I say that, that's who was drawn to me is because
yeah,
as I began to read and study this information, my energy changed, my vibration changed, and people in my sphere were drawn to me accordingly because they could sense I had something that they needed. What's the old saying? When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
fair, fair. Now, this is not a pushback as you're saying, but the first thing that comes to my mind, well, like you said, maybe it's the skeptical part of me that's like, well, we live in a quote unquote Christian society, so that the mathematical probability that you're going to run into a Christian is high. So voila, that would justify why you're being approached by Christians, more Christians than, let's say, non-believers, or Hindus, or Muslims. But that's just the skeptical part of me. While I'm talking about other religions, have you had a chance to address, or to have a numerology based conversation with someone of a non-Christian faith? And what does that look like? What are some of the objections that people of other religions have that are completely different from the ones that Christians have?
Well, what I have found in recent times, most people are more about spirituality
Yeah.
than they are
Yep.
about religion.
Yep.
Um, so people are embracing their spirituality, and they
Yeah.
don't want to be tied to old traditions.
Right.
They don't want to be told, well, it's this way, or this is the only way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so a lot of my classes is sort of, I have to keep my finger on the pulse and be aware of who I'm sharing with.
Right. Right.
Oftentimes, I've been called upon to mentor children, young people. I got a whole
Yeah.
different approach with children. Um, Sometimes I've been asked to speak, and they say, "We like what you do, but can you leave the God stuff out of it?"
Yeah. 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 Fair.
I
Fair.
always love that one. Say, "Sure, I
Yeah.
can,"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Okay.
there was no God stuff in it when I started studying it. It's sort of
Right.
like it leads you to make your own conclusion about
Right.
those things because of the connections that people find. So I do a lot of classes
Yeah.
called Numbers in You. Okay, Numbers in You.
Okay.
And when I
Yeah.
began to reveal what's been taught over 3,000 years, okay, if I get people to realize, hey, I didn't invent this. I'm just
Right.
sharing with you what I've read and studied, what I've
Yeah. Yeah.
researched over some 50 years, going to the Library of Congress in different places and studying. And as I mentioned before, a cosmic 2x4 here and there. When
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
realize that information is out there and they begin to embrace it, it provides them with an insight, because people cannot deny their experience. Numbers are there to communicate to us information about spirit. That's why people see numbers all the time, repeating numbers. They'll see them. I get a lot of people calling me, I'm seeing this number all the time, Dr. Wright. What does this mean? What does it mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
1111 shows up a lot. People are seeing that because 11 is a symbol for light, wisdom, knowledge. Many of the world religious teachers have been 11s. Muhammad was 11. Jesus was a
Yeah.
number 11. So the 11 is a symbol for light, truth, and wisdom. When you add it together, it's 22, and that's a symbol for global phenomenon. So
Yeah.
1111 is indicative of a global awakening
Hmm.
that's taken place, and people are recognizing, what I mentioned before, hey, wait a minute, I've been here before. Some people are starting to awaken to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reincarnation has been taught as one of the world's religions for, I don't know, thousands and thousands of years. But people
Yeah.
are starting to awaken, like, wait a minute, there's something to this. So there's just an awakening going on, and I find that um, the way I've been used by the universe is maybe to break down some of the walls that religious people have, to get
Okay.
them to awaken to the true meaning behind the doctrines that they profess to believe it.
Hmm.
Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Numerology is through. You cannot read the Bible without reading numbers. In fact,
Right.
the fourth book of the Bible and the Torah is called Numbers.
Fair. Fair.
It's
Yeah.
it's one of the books in the Bible. So
I gotta.
it's an awakening for them.
Yeah.
In
I
fact, I
have to
teach.
send. Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying I teach a series of classes called The Awakening,
Okay.
and
The
I have
awakening.
people taking the classes from all backgrounds.
Yeah. Okay. And so, well, first of all, I have to send this. I have a friend of mine. He's huge into numbers. I don't think he would consider himself a numerologist, but he has tried to explain a lot of this concept. They just try that they're explaining to me, and they just go into one year, just come right out of the other ones. Because I say that because I remember him mentioning that Jesus was a 22. Yeah, so that just it sticks for like a second and then it's just completely gone. But if I may ask, can you expand a little bit more on like because you mentioned I might not be doing justice to what you just said, but you want to help religious individuals break down some of the walls that have been built up. Can you expand a little bit more on like some of the walls that you see often built up amongst religious people that they are not even aware that those walls are there.
Well, well where could I begin? Well, for example, just
Yeah.
the study of numerology itself. A lot of people
Okay.
in the study of astrology, for
Hmm.
example. A lot, even though right in the literature itself, for example, Psalms 90 verse 12 says, "Teach us to number our days so we can apply our hearts to wisdom." Okay, so a lot of
Okay.
people say, well, no, what they're saying is we have to remember we're going to die at any time, so we
Hmm.
can't waste time. No, they literally mean
Okay.
there's a system that you can use of studying numbers so you can apply your energy wisely. And it's right there in the book.
Okay. Hmm.
Astrology is another example. In Genesis, it says God created the sun, the moon, the planets, so they would serve as signs.
Hmm.
It's in the scripture. Those are the exact words. But
Right.
you'll have a lot of quote religious people tell you you should not study astrology. Well, how wise would you have to be to see a bright star moving across the sky?
Hmm.
Would that
Hmm.
take three wise men to
Hmm.
see a star moving across, or could anybody see that? No, it wasn't a bright star. These were astrologers who studied the planets and where they were positioned and understood. Based on that, a spiritual entity was taking on physical form at a particular junction in time that would have particular qualities.
Okay. Wait. So then,
Those were the wise men.
does that make you a Christian then? Because if they had if they were if they studied the stars and they came to the realization that there is, as you put it, well, no, you didn't put it this way, but like a celestial entity, a spiritual entity of great significance, has just manifested himself physically. Does that mean you believe in Jesus then, or like how does that work?
Does that I don't understand your question. Does that make them believers? I don't understand your
Well,
question.
it makes them believers, of course, as the story goes. But does that make you a believer? Because if it made them believers, oh geez, where am I going with this? If
What if your original
yeah,
question was, were there things in the Bible that people see that that you know is not true, and I was just using that as an example. There are preachers who
Okay.
will stand up and tell you astrology is evil, numerology is evil,
Okay.
stay away
Okay.
from these
Okay.
things. And what
Okay.
I'm saying is evidence of these sciences exists right in the very
Right in the
scripture
Bible.
that
Right.
they
Right.
profess to be experts in. Okay, so
Okay.
they're distracting people, telling them what's in the book, where if you pick it up and read it yourself,
Right.
you will discover certain patterns that exist. For example, the number three,
Mm.
okay, shows up throughout the story of the teaching of Jesus. The number three. Sought by three wise
Okay.
men, denied by three sleeping disciples. It just so happens, as a numerologist, I was
Yeah.
drawn to this story because of the repetition of the number
Mm.
three. Does that
Okay.
make me a Christian?
Oh, okay. I
It
see.
makes
I see
me
what you're
a
saying.
it makes me
Right.
a student of that literature
Yep.
about
Yep.
a person who they call the Christ, who re, who had certain qualities that were expressed in this form. So when I
Yeah.
read the
Yeah.
scripture, I'm reading it different from most people. I'm looking
Mm.
at what the numbers mean. I'm looking at
Right.
what the letters mean. I'm looking at what the names are transmitting and what's being communicated. And it's a much more fulfilling story once you know the number code.
Yeah. Yeah. Know your numbers, huh? Know your
So I
numbers.
consider
Okay.
myself a student of life. A
Yeah.
student of
Yeah.
life.
No, I'm liking this conversation. Like I said, I'm a natural conversationalist, and I like to poke holes where I think holes need to be poked at. But at the end of the day, I'm also a student of life. I don't know what this whole life thing is all about, and but one of the ways that you get closer to knowing it is having conversations, and especially conversations that I've never had. Right, I've never had to interact with someone that is a professional in this particular field, and so my hope is that you, the audience, walks away having learned a thing or two about this conversation, and I still have all kinds of other all kinds of other questions. So perhaps there might be round 2, 3, and 4 later on with Dr. Craig Wright here. I really like your name. But as we're coming to a close here, is there something that you would like to leave the audience with? I know there's we can continue to talk for a lot longer, and I have all kinds of more questions, but just for the sake of respecting the time here, is there something that you would like to close with?
Well, I'd just like to close by saying thank you for this
Yeah,
opportunity to share.
yeah,
Thank you for asking questions that a lot of people have.
yeah.
Thank you for your insightful mind, your ability to dig deep, um, to pull up information and knowledge. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to share on that level
Yeah,
with
yeah.
others, and hopefully we have encouraged people to research, to analyze, to study, and to look at things in a different perspective.
Absolutely,
Something
absolutely.
that will help them. It certainly helped me. Something that will help them in terms of living a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
Okay, okay. And if people want to follow you or follow your adventures, do you have a website,
Yes,
social
yes. I
media,
have a
or
website.
yeah?
You can visit my website, and I have information about numbers there, information about letters, what they mean. The website is my name, Craig E. Wright. It's www.CraigEWright.com.
All right. That is Dr. Craig Wright, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the Moses Kabandana podcast.
Thank you again for having me.